The year was 1916, and the leaves on Missouri Ridge were turning the color of old gold. The carriage rattled along a narrow dirt road until it stopped before a sprawling, weather-worn building that stood alone against the fog. The Ridgeview Hotel, once grand, now a faded relic of a brighter time. Clara Wren, a 24-year-old widow with nowhere left to go, stepped down with her trunk. The wind smelled of rain and pine, and the building seemed to hum faintly, as though whispering to itself. She clutched the letter that had brought her here, caretaker seeking staff. Room and board provided for Clara, it wasn't just a job, it was survival. After losing her husband to illness, she drifted from town to town, searching for somewhere to start again. She'd never believed in ghost stories. Until that night, when she first stepped into Ridgeview's hollow halls. The hotel's caretaker, Mr. Abraham Dulles, appeared like a shadow in the doorway. His face was long and pale, his voice low and gravelly. "You'll find the place quiet, Miss Wren," he said. "Too quiet for some." He led her through the grand foyer, chandeliers covered in cobwebs, faded red carpets, portraits staring from the walls with lifelike eyes. "You'll have your own room on the second floor. Most rooms are empty now. We haven't had guests since before the war." He stopped near the staircase, his hand on the banister worn smooth by years of touch. "Don't mind the noises at night. These walls are old and, well, they remember." Clara frowned. "Remember what?" Mr. Dulles looked at her, eyes hollow but kind. "People, Miss Wren. They remember the people." The first night at Ridgeview was restless. Rain lashed against the windows, and the old pipes moaned like a grieving soul. Clara turned in her bed, clutching the blanket tighter. Then came the footsteps, soft, deliberate, rhythmic, moving along the corridor just outside her door. She froze. The sound stopped at her room, lingered for a moment, then faded down the hallway. Heart pounding, she rose and opened the door. The hallway was empty, but the air was heavy with a scent she couldn't place. Not dust, not candle wax, gunpowder, and lavender. At the far end of the corridor, a photograph hung crooked. It showed the hotel's founder, Elias Ridgway, beside a young soldier with kind eyes and a confident smile. Below the image, a small brass plate read, "Private Samuel Carter, 1865. The next morning, Clara wandered to the lobby while dusting shelves and sweeping old floors. In a drawer behind the counter, she discovered a guest ledger, its pages yellow and brittle. Each page listed names, dates, and room numbers, the record of those who'd once filled these silent halls. She traced her finger down the lines until she found one entry circled in faded red ink. "Private Samuel Carter, Room 12, Check-in, June 2nd, 1865. The checkout column beside it was blank. A small note in the margin read, simply, "Awaiting return." A shiver ran down Clara's spine. She looked toward the stairs leading to the second floor. The same faint footsteps seemed to echo above her, measured, searching, never-ending. Determined to be practical, Clara decided to clean room 12, though Mr. Dulles warned her, "That room don't take kindly to strangers." She pushed open the creaking door and found a chamber frozen in time. The bed neatly made, the curtains moth-eaten but untouched, a single candle on the nightstand. Above the mantel hung a portrait, the same soldier from the photograph, Samuel Carter. His painted eyes seemed to follow her wherever she moved. She laughed nervously. "It's just paint, Clara," and began dusting. But as her cloth brushed across the frame, she felt a gust of cold air sweep behind her. The candle flickered though there was no draft. The boards creaked softly, a single step. She turned quickly. Nothing. Only the faint smell of lavender. During her weekly trip to town for flour and soap, Clara stopped at Kemp's General Store. The old shopkeeper, Mrs. Kemp, was kind but cautious. When Clara mentioned the Ridgeview Hotel, Mrs. Kemp's expression darkened. "You're working up there, dear?" she asked. Clara nodded. "It's peaceful enough, though a bit eerie." Mrs. Kemp leaned closer. "Peaceful? That place has been cursed since the war ended. You don't know what happened, do you?" Clara shook her head. Mrs. Kemp sighed. "Elias Ridgway built that hotel to celebrate his son's return from the Union Army. But the boy never came back. They say his best friend, Samuel Carter, did, for a night, but not alive." Clara felt her heart drop. "Not alive?" "Some say the body arrived days after he died, but his spirit didn't rest." The Ridgway boy's fiancée, Anna, stayed at the hotel, waiting for him. She never left either. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. The footsteps returned, louder this time, pacing above her ceiling, up in the attic. Lantern in hand, she climbed the narrow stairs, dust motes swirling in the beam of light. The air was thick, dry, and oddly fragrant. Then she heard it, a soft humming, a woman's voice singing an old waltz. The melody was full of longing. Following the sound, Clara found a military trunk tucked beneath the rafters. The initials SC were carved on the lid. Inside were a folded Union jacket, a tarnished locket, and a stack of letters, all addressed to "My dearest Anna." The last one stopped her breath. "If I don't return, tell Anna I still walk the steps that lead home." The next evening, Mr. Dulles caught Clara standing at room 12's door again. "You've felt him, haven't you?" he asked quietly. Clara hesitated, then nodded. "Samuel Carter?" Mr. Dulles looked weary. "Aye. He walks when the wind's from the east, always the same path. From room 12 to the piano hall and back, waiting for her, Anna," Clara whispered. He nodded. "She was supposed to marry the Ridgway boy, but she loved Samuel. After the war, she came here to tell him. But the telegram came first." Clara's throat tightened. "She stayed here, didn't she?" Dulles's eyes softened. "Until her last breath. She said she'd never leave until she saw him again." Haunted by the story, Clara spent hours searching through old drawers and cabinets, trying to find proof. Finally, beneath a stack of yellowed linens in a hallway cupboard, she found it, a folded telegram, its ink smudged and faded. "Regret to inform you Private Samuel Carter killed in action, U.S. War Department, 1865. At the bottom, someone had written in delicate cursive, "He promised he'd return." Clara stared at the words, her vision blurring. The room seemed to darken around her. Then, faintly, came the echo of footsteps again. This time, she didn't run. "Samuel?" she whispered. "You're still here, aren't you?" The air grew colder, but somehow it didn't frighten her. The storm came that night, fierce and wild, shaking the old windows of the Ridgeview. Clara sat in her room, clutching the letters. Lightning flashed, and through the thunder's echo she heard something else. A piano playing softly below. Her heart raced. She grabbed a lantern and descended the staircase, each step groaning under her weight. The melody grew clearer, a haunting waltz, slow and sorrowful, echoing across the empty dining hall. There was no one there. Only a single candle burned beside the grand piano, and though no hands touched the keys, the song continued to play, notes rising and falling like a heartbeat. Clara's voice trembled. "Anna?" And then, in the shimmer of candlelight, a figure appeared, faint and luminous, dressed in a flowing white gown. Her face was young, beautiful, and streaked with tears. The ghostly woman turned her gaze toward Clara, her voice barely a whisper over the music. "Where is he?" Clara swallowed hard, emotion tightening her throat. "He's still here. He's looking for you." The woman's eyes closed. A single tear slid down her translucent cheek before she faded into mist. The piano went silent. After that night, the air inside Ridgeview felt different, thick with a sadness that seemed almost human. Clara couldn't shake the image of that pale woman at the piano. Her face, her voice, all full of longing and loss. When Clara asked Mr. Dulles if he'd ever seen her, he hesitated. Only once, he admitted, voice trembling. It was years ago. She was standing by the window, humming that same tune. I spoke her name and she vanished. Do you believe she's still looking for him? Clara asked. Mr. Dulles's eyes glistened in the lamplight. Anna loved Samuel more than life itself. If his spirit never found rest, neither did hers. That night, as the moonlight crept across her floor, Clara thought of the soldier and the woman. Two souls trapped in time, walking the same corridors, never crossing paths. She whispered into the quiet, "I'll help you find each other." And somewhere, faintly, the old floorboards answered with a soft, approving creak. The next morning, Clara ventured into the old ballroom, the place where the piano had played itself. She opened both balcony doors to let the light flood in, and for a moment it felt like the room sighed with relief. On the far wall hung two portraits, one of Elias Ridgway's son, the other of Anna Lee, his fiancée. Beneath Anna's portrait was a small brass plaque. She waited for love that never came. Clara traced the inscription with trembling fingers. Her heart ached for both of them, not just for their love, but for their unfinished story. Later that afternoon, she brought Mr. Dulles to the ballroom. "They're both here," she said softly, "but apart. We need to help them meet." He looked at her with weary skepticism. "Many have tried, child. Priests, spiritualists, even the Ridgway family. The dead don't listen easy." Clara met his gaze with quiet conviction. Maybe they just needed someone who believes they can still find each other. That evening, Clara prepared the ballroom for something she couldn't quite name. A ceremony of sorts, guided only by instinct and hope. She cleaned the dust from the piano, polished the brass candle holders, and placed two candles on top, one white, one blue. On the piano, she set Anna's letters from the attic and the telegram that had doomed Samuel's fate. Then she whispered, "You've waited long enough. Tonight, you walk together." As midnight neared, she lit both candles and sat silently in the corner. The wind moaned through the ridge. The chandelier swayed slightly, its crystals trembling like tears. Then, faint but clear, the footsteps began. First one sat, measured, deliberate. Then another, lighter, graceful, as if a woman in silk was moving toward them. Clara rose to her feet as two faint glows emerged at opposite ends of the ballroom. From the west, the outline of a man in uniform, tall and steady. From the east, the shimmering image of a woman in a white gown, her face soft and full of love. They moved slowly toward each other, their shapes growing clearer with every step. The room filled with a warmth Clara had never felt before. Not heat, but a kind of peace. When they finally stood face to face, the man whispered, "I walked every step to come home to you." And Anna, her eyes shining, replied, "I waited every night so you would know I still loved you." Their hands met, and the candles flared. A brilliant white light filled the room, erasing every shadow. Clara shielded her eyes, and when she looked again, they were gone. All that remained was the scent of lavender and silence. The next morning, the Ridgeview Hotel felt different, alive but lighter, as if someone had lifted a century of sorrow from its walls. The echoing footsteps were gone, the creaks, the sighs, the whispers, all silent. Clara entered the ballroom and found the two candles burned down to their bases, their wax melted together like joined hands. On the piano lay one final letter, written in delicate handwriting neither hers nor Dullis's. Thank you for giving us our tomorrow. We are home now. S and A tears welled in Clara's eyes. For the first time since she'd arrived, she didn't feel alone in the old building. She felt surrounded by peace. That evening, Clara found Mr. Dulles sitting by the fireplace, staring into the flames. His face was soft, almost young in the firelight. "I saw the light last night," he said quietly. "Did you?" Clara nodded, handing him the letter. He read it silently, then smiled, a sad, trembling smile. "I've been waiting for this day my whole life," he said. Clara frowned. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath. "I was 10 years old when Anna lived here. My father worked for the Ridgeways. I remember her sitting by the piano every evening, hoping Samuel would return. When she passed, I promised her I'd stay and keep the hotel, so she'd never wait alone." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "You kept that promise," Mr. Dulles nodded slowly. "Now I can rest too." The following morning she found his chair empty, the fire out, his room neatly made. On his pillow was a folded note. "The Ridgeview no longer needs a keeper." Weeks passed. Autumn turned to winter, and Clara began preparing to leave Missouri Ridge. The town no longer feared the hotel. Some even said the air around it smelled faintly of flowers now. On her last night, Clara walked through every room one final time. She paused in the ballroom, touched the piano, and whispered, "Thank you for letting me be part of your story." As she turned to go, she heard it, footsteps, soft, steady, familiar. They stopped just behind her, and a gentle voice whispered, "Thank you for bringing peace to the Ridge." A cool breeze brushed her cheek, like a farewell kiss. When she turned, the room was empty, but her heart felt full. Before she left, Clara returned to the front desk and opened the old guest ledger one last time. Her hands trembled as she flipped to the page marked with Samuel Carter's name. The ink that had once been faded now seemed strangely renewed. Beneath the line where checkout had been blank for half a century, a new entry appeared, one that hadn't been there before. Checkout, October 2nd, 1916, together. Clara covered her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. She closed the book gently and whispered, "Rest well." When she stepped outside, dawn was breaking over Missouri Ridge, golden sunlight spilling across the hills, washing away years of gloom. Decades passed. The Ridgeview Hotel fell into ruins, swallowed by ivy and silence. Its grand staircase collapsed, and its chandeliers hung crooked with rust. But the locals still spoke of it, not as a haunted place, but as a sacred one. Campers who stayed nearby swore they sometimes heard faint footsteps along the ridge, not heavy or fearful, but light and even, like two people walking in peace. Others said that on full moon nights, a faint melody, a waltz, drifted through the valley, coming from where the ballroom once stood. They said it sounded like love coming home. Years later, travelers found an old journal buried near the hotel ruins. Inside were Clara Wren's notes, her handwriting careful, her words full of wonder. She had written, "I came to Missouri Ridge looking for work and found a story that taught me what love truly means, that even in death, kindness can heal, and love never forgets its way home." Her story spread across the towns and newspapers of the region. They called it the hotel that echoed footsteps of ghosts. But for those who listened closely, they knew it wasn't really about ghosts. It was about remembrance, forgiveness, and the quiet power of helping others find peace. And so, as the legend of the Ridgeview Hotel lived on, it carried a simple truth through generations. Even when time forgets us, love remembers. Even when we're haunted by the past, compassion can set us free.